to the play. Unsportsmanlike conduct. Number 49 on the defense. 15-yard penalty. Third down. Unsportsmanlike conduct. Unsportsmanlike conduct. Unsportsmanlike conduct. Unsportsmanlike conduct.
Unsportsmanlike conduct. It's time, y'all. It's time. First of all, it's time for football season. We'll start with that, but more on that later. But when I say it's time, I mean it's time, as in Unsportsmanlike Conduct is back. This was actually the name of the first podcast I made outside of college, was Unsportsmanlike Conduct. And I think I did, 10 episodes, but, 10 years ago, 22-year-old Mike starts finding a lot of things to do and needs to get a real job. But, the whole idea was just to kind of talk sports, and it's kind of what we're going to do here. So this is kind of the first episode, I guess. I mean, we've got another episode before this, but it was just a little snippet from a Don't At Me, which, by the way, if you're not subscribed to Don't At Me, need you to subscribe to Don't At Me. More of that coming this year. But let's focus on Unsportsmanlike Conduct. So first of all, we're going to do a two-part NFL preview. We're going to start out with some AFC, do some over-unders, go division by division, figure out what I think's going to happen. Of course, since it is an over-unders pod, you're going to get my pick on whether a team will exceed their over-under wins totals. If you believe in me and you kind of understand the rationale and you think, hey, this guy knows what he's talking about, well, hey, maybe you can make some money, put in some bets. But hey, I could be 0 for 32 on this, equally as I could be 32 for 32. I don't know. I'm just going to kind of explain to you the way that I've seen, or how I think the season will unfold based on what we've seen so far in the offseason. As far as Unsportsmanlike Conduct goes for, what about after this episode? So the plan is to give you 2 episodes each week. During the NFL season, you're going to get one on Tuesday morning, kind of recapping a little bit Monday Night Football, looking at the weekend before. I'm not going to give you the same shit you're going to hear on SportsCenter and all of that mumbo jumbo. I'm going to tell you what I think the real headlines are, what really jumped out at me, what you need to pay attention to long term, whether you're, trying to put some money down to make some money, or you just want to be able to talk shit to your friends about, hey, I'm smart and I'm right and I'm always right. And, I heard on this podcast the other day. So you're going to get that. And then you're also going to have a Thursday morning pod that does a preview of the next week's slate of games. So you got your Tuesday morning, your Thursday morning, all football season. When basketball season comes around, things get a little bit interesting, maybe a little bit more of a mix. Hey, I don't know yet, really, to be frank with you. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. But for now, let's focus on the best time of the year. That's the NFL season. Let's dive right into our over-unders. All right, so starting out with the AFC East. Last year, we had the Buffalo Bills kind of run away with this one. It was kind of their arrival, if you will. Josh Allen became a bit of a household name. The somewhat inaccurate, sometimes, I don't want to say sketchy, but, inconsistent, maybe mistake-prone quarterback immediately fixes all his problems. You saw the culture shift in Buffalo come a couple years ago with Sean McDermott. They've had a good defense for the last decade, I want to say. And even though the Bills haven't been a major threat in the AFC, they've at least always played hard. And you see that culture, that kind of stuck around, but everybody knows now, hey, we're right there knocking on the door. Last year, team wins the division. First time the Pats don't win it since, 08. When the Dolphins won it, because Brady, ACL year. And then that was I don't even remember the last time the Pats didn't win it before that. Maybe 01, 02, the Super Bowl hangover. Anyway, looks like this is the Bills division now. And what's really fascinating about this division is the amount of young quarterbacks that we have. So I already mentioned Josh Allen. We'll kind of get more into Buffalo's prognosis here in a bit. Miami, you've got Tua. The verdict is still out, or the jury is still out. There are a lot of rumors that they've been tied to Deshaun Watson and, kind of keeping an eye on that situation. New England, we saw the news this week. Cam Newton cut. They're sticking with Mac Jones. And for anybody out there thinking, oh, man, you can't cut an ex-MVP who's been to a Super Bowl. Like, what? Look, the second they decided that this was Mac Jones's job, it makes no sense to keep Cam Newton on. You don't have a leader kind of playing backup. If anything, it's just going to become a distraction. But we'll get into the Pats here in a minute. And then last but not least, we have the Jets. I say last but not least, but they certainly are the least in this division. Hey, Robert Saleh, they got Zach Wilson at quarterback, a lot of young talent. They've had a really just kind of thorn in their side this offseason, really, for the last couple decades. But, Carl Lawson, one of their big free agency pickups, out for the year. Starting left tackle's dinged up. The Jets are kind of a mess in their own way. I think that I want to say I think they're headed in the right direction, but only time will tell. I think they're far better management-wise with Joe Douglas and Saleh and all of them involved as they were in the past. They have the same owner, though. So how do we see the AFC East going? Well, I think that Buffalo last year established themselves as the team to beat, and I think that continues this year. I've got Buffalo winning the division. The number 2 spot gets pretty interesting because you've got the Dolphins with coming off a 10-6 season, barely missing the playoffs. That was after a year where I want to say they went 5-11, started the season 0-7, 0-8, somewhere in that range. Finished with the same 5-4 record that the Pats did to close out the season. I guess they were 0-7 at that point then. So, you kind of got this, okay, who's going to get that number 2 spot? Are we going to have 3 playoff teams in this division? Are we going to have 2? If we do, who would the next one up be? I see Miami figuring it out a little bit this year. And that's not necessarily faith in Tua as, he's going to be great. I just think that, for one, Brian Flores as the head coach is a really good coach. You've got a well-rounded team with a good offensive unit, decent receivers, pretty good run game, pretty good defense. The defense is really strong. This is a team that was essentially in a rebuild mode, barely misses the playoffs, and gives everybody hell when they play them. So I see Miami getting a slight edge over New England. And I did this. I guess I can kind of go into the process of what I did here, right? So I looked at every single game of the season and chose, okay, winner, okay, loser. And I was pretty, I guess I took a lot of liberties with the home teams, especially on Thursday night games. So are all these over-unders going to be right? I doubt it, but, the whole, what I did here is I looked at each game. So with the Patriots specifically, my mind is saying, all right, well, they have Cam. I think maybe a quarter or midway through the season, Mac Jones takes over. Just that alone, that learning curve, they're not going to be blowing it out of the water. Now that they're starting Mac Jones from day one, of course, Cam got cut. It doesn't really change a whole lot, but I think that it does help them out towards the end of the season. So when I did this exercise, I had the Pats slightly behind Miami for third in the division. I got them winning 10 games. I think now that Mac is getting his feet wet earlier, I could see maybe 11 games is feasible. They're going to have a really good defense. They've got a really good running game. You already know the line is going to be good. The line is always good in New England. And then on top of that, you've got all these tight end signings. You don't have to be in love with the receiving core. It's still probably the third or maybe even fourth in the division. But New England's got Belichick. They're going to be a team to reckon with. And then, like I said, last but not least, but least in the division is New York. I just, it's just not going to happen. So let's look at the over-unders, and we'll go through each one for what I've got. So the over-under, and these numbers are based off of Bovada, okay? Buffalo is at 11, Miami 9.5, New England 9.5, and the Jets at 6. So I've got 3 overs and 1 under. Buffalo, they'll go over 11 games, 11 wins. They're maybe in the running for best record in the AFC, maybe best record in the league. I wouldn't sneeze at that. We'll get big picture here in the playoffs towards the end of the pod. I have a couple of concerns with, let's see how they do with success. But anyway, Miami, 9.5 wins. I've got them going over. I think that they're going to be a tough team for all the reasons I laid out. They're well-rounded. They're managed well. They have a good coach. I think Miami will be a playoff team. Patriots, I've got them 9.5 over-under wins. I'm barely giving them the over, right? And even though it's barely over, I want to say this is a lock. The Pats at 10-7 at worst is a lock. They've got an incredible defense. They've got the best coach of all time. They've got a running game. It reminds you of that early era Pats team, like the early Brady years where you've got a young quarterback who doesn't make a lot of mistakes, kind of a game manager. You've got a really good team around him with a really good coach. I've got the Pats at 10-7. That gives me an over 9.5 wins. That is one of my locks. I'm going to give you 2 locks for the AFC and 2 for the NFC. And then the Jets, 6 wins. I've got them on the under. It's 6 is you get the 6 wins, you're 6-11. Now, if this was 6.5 wins, maybe, I'd still say the under. I've got the Jets winning maybe 4 or so games. So that 6 number, you're either thinking they win 7 or more, so they're going to go 7-10 or better, which I really don't think, or you think they're going to go 5-12 or worse, which I think is far more likely. So we've got 3 overs and 1 under in the AFC East. I like Buffalo and Miami as playoff teams. Pats just on the outside looking in. But again, we'll get playoff bracket big picture later in the end, towards the end of this pod. Let's move gears and go over to the AFC North. Now, this is another one of those divisions where you could have 3 playoff teams. You could have 1. Last year, we saw 3 playoff teams come out of here. The Steelers, with their 11-0 start, it felt like a flimsy 11-0, even though everybody said, well, they have the best record. We have to kind of respect them, but we don't really buy it. They had that weird Wednesday COVID game with the Ravens, where they just kept having to reschedule. Reschedule. It was on a Wednesday at 4 Central Time. That was the last time they really looked like a team that knew what was going on. They beat the Ravens. At that point, I want to say the Ravens went 7-5. You think, okay, maybe the Ravens are going to fall out of the playoff mix. Pittsburgh, they're now, 11-0, looking strong. They're going to be the 1 seed. Well, it didn't really work out that way. Pittsburgh goes on to lose, I think, their last 5. And granted, they still won the division, but barely, right? They barely edged out the Ravens. The Ravens, they went on a win streak. They didn't lose again in the regular season. Lamar finally got his playoff win, a win in Tennessee. The Titans hosting that game, the team that beat them the year before, where the Ravens were the 1 seed, had all these high expectations. Nonetheless, you also had the Browns. And the Browns, the first time making the playoffs in years. And who do they face? They face the Steelers. And I remember thinking, all right, even though I like the Browns' momentum coming in, I hate the Steelers' momentum because at this point they were on a losing streak. I still got Pittsburgh winning this game because of experience, and hey, they're playing the Browns. That's not at all what happened. Browns go up 28-0 by the time you're probably getting popcorn out of the microwave, blow the Steelers out of the field in Pittsburgh. Browns go on to face the Chiefs the next round, give the Chiefs their best game outside of Tampa Bay, and now all of a sudden Cleveland's looking like maybe a team to beat. So we look at this division, and of course also the last place team, Cincinnati. Last year, Joe Burrow comes in, looking very nice, looking really good in his rookie year. Boom, ACL, they can't protect him. I don't see a lot changing this year. I think Burrow is a really good player on a really bad team. Not going to be able to keep him on his feet, not going to be able to protect him. I think Cincinnati's going to have a really tough year. But I hope for Burrow's sake, because I do like the guy and I think he's talented, that he continues to gel. Chase, I hope, can actually catch the ball come season time, and I hope that Zach Taylor actually knows what he's doing to coach them better. But I think it's more likely that they have a really bad year and Zach Taylor's on the way out a year from now when we're doing our next season's Over-Unders pod, and hopefully by then Burrow can get some players around him, be able to stand on his feet. But let's dive into the situation this year. You've got the Browns, who are a hot name. They're around that 14-1, Super Bowl odds, depending on where you're looking. They bring in Jadeveon Clowney. Odell Beckham is coming back from injury. They're 1 year deeper into the Stefanski system. They're coming off a playoff win, first time in damn near 30 years. They've got a lot of buzz around them. Pittsburgh. Big Ben, probably his swan song last year. He's not going to play beyond this year. He's finally cutting back on slamming back the cold ones. They say he's in shape, which really just means he's not out of shape as much as usual. But do you really buy into Pittsburgh? Do you think you're going to see a new team this year? Is it going to be more of what we saw last year? Now, they did pick up a nice draft pick, I will say, at running back, Najee Harris. That's going to put a little bit more attention on the run game, something that has always been a Pittsburgh synonym, strong run game, strong defense, that they haven't been able to live by because of the talent they've had on the team. And then, of course, Bush coming back from injury, stud linebacker, goes out last year. Right when he got hurt, that's when the team kind of started, coming back down to earth. So, Pittsburgh, what do you think about Pittsburgh? And then also you've got Baltimore, who I feel is the forgotten team in all this. I've got a lot of big hopes for Baltimore, and I'll get more into that, obviously, as we progress down this pod. But Baltimore, look, they lose their starting running back, J.K. Dobbins, but you realize they haven't had the same rushing leader since probably Jamal Lewis. Every year somebody different. Alex Collins, Gus Edwards, Ray Rice many years ago. So even though losing J.K. Dobbins is a huge deal, and I think after the news broke, I actually had them taking one more loss than I originally had them taking. But I feel like the Ravens find a way to get things done. They are going to beat your ass. They're going to beat you in the trenches. They've got, Lamar's got another year under his belt. And I'll be honest, I haven't been the hugest believer or really the biggest fan in Lamar. Well, I shouldn't say not a fan. I love watching him. But I haven't really been the biggest believer. He wins one playoff game. All the other games, he kind of has deer in headlights look, in his playoff career. But, I think now that he's got his confidence, now that he knows what's around him, now that he knows the league, right, I think that it's more likely that he takes that next step. And the fact that nobody's really talking about Baltimore right now makes me like them even more. And I think that they're also in that 14-1, 15-1 range for Super Bowl odds. I would look at that too. For value and for realistic, hey, I might actually win this, I would look at the Ravens. I'd probably also look at the Browns just for value, but again, I think it's asking a lot of Mayfield, who I think is kind of the question mark, to think that they're going to really win this division or run away with it. Would I be shocked if the Browns win the division? No, but I've got Baltimore winning the division. Taking a look at the over-unders, similar situation to the other division. I've got a lot of haves and have-nots. I've got Baltimore and Cleveland making the playoffs. I've got Pittsburgh barely on the outside looking in, and I've got Cincinnati, one of the worst teams in the league. Specific over-unders, Baltimore is at 11. I like the over here. And I think that it's more likely that they are pushing for the number 1 or number 2 seed than, clawing their way in. Again, if they're a playoff team, if they're a wild card team and the Browns win the division, I wouldn't be shocked, but I'm putting my money more on Baltimore. Brownies, their over-under is 10.5. I barely got the over on this one. I think that they will be one of the top 5, maybe top 7 teams in the league. I think playoffs maybe make a little bit of a difference. Again, we'll get into that later. But I like what they've done. I like the defense. I like that they have really pushed the Chiefs. Again, outside of Tampa, they had the Chiefs on their heels. And granted, Chad Henne, 3rd and 15, damn near converts on the next play. But that one little moment, right? There's your Kevin Durant foot on the line moment, right? So I've got Cleveland going over 10.5 wins. Pittsburgh, 8.5. I also have the over here. Mike Tomlin has never had a losing season, and I don't think that that's going to happen this year. There's too much talent around this team. I like the young talent with like the Claypools of the world. On the defensive side of the ball, the defense has really improved. You've got Bush coming back. I really like the safety from Miami. I mean, the AFC North is going to be tough, right? But I don't see Pittsburgh going 8-9 or worse. I have them going 10-7, barely missing the playoffs on the outside looking in. And then Cincinnati. I'm sorry, Cincy, but 6.5 wins with that offensive line. Now, granted, they've got Joe Burrow, and I'm a big Burrow fan, but I don't know how they're going to protect him. You invest a pick in Jamar Chase. He can't catch the ball. I don't have a lot of high hopes for Cincinnati, so I've got them under 6.5 wins. So this division, I've got 3 overs and an under. And again, they're going to be beating each other up quite a bit, but I think that this division will beat a lot of the outside of this division. And spoiler alert, I think the AFC has the best regular season teams. NFC, I've got, some 9-8 teams pushing for that final wild card spot, whereas in the AFC, I think 11-6, you're going to barely make it in. So I won't spoil anything further, but AFC North, Ravens win it, Browns make the playoffs as a wild card, Pittsburgh just on the outside looking in, Cincinnati, they'll be lucky to win a handful of games.
Excuse me, I'm talking to you. Hey. JK. But what's up, everybody? It's your boy Jacquees from the Don't End Me podcast. Do me a favor. Head over to our YouTube channel and hit that subscribe button when you get the chance, okay? The cool thing is, when you subscribe, you'll be the first one to get all of our unfiltered takes on today's latest controversies, current events, society, and relationship talks from a guy's perspective right when it's published. How dope is that, right? So you can find our link on the show notes. Please help us grow. Spread the word about Don't At Me and the rest of our Repertoire family of podcasts. All right, let's get back to it.
AFC South, let's dive into this dumpster fire. We've got potentially 2 of the worst teams in the league. We've got 2 at the top of this division that, does anybody love the Colts or the Titans? Last year, you've got a Colts team who pushing, fighting. Phillip Rivers is, he does a lot of picks, but he finds a way to get them into the playoffs, right? They're a wild card spot. Barely. They're that 7 seed. The first time they have 7 teams in each conference make the playoffs. The Titans, they win that division. They're coming off of the upset over the Ravens and, pushing the Chiefs to the edge at the AFC title game. They have that 10-point lead. Henry breaks 2,000 yards. So all of a sudden, okay, maybe the Titans, maybe they're the sexy pick to kind of, upset, make things happen. Doesn't happen. Ravens get their revenge, bounce the Titans. Meanwhile, the Colts, they lose in the first round of the Bills, but outside of the Chiefs, they gave the Bills their best game. I feel like the Colts have so much talent on both sides of the ball. Really good offense, really good defense. This year, though, at the quarterback position, you've got Carson Wentz. So you've got some concerns. Are you going to see the same Wentz that you saw at the end of his reign in Philly? He's got the foot injury. Is he even going to be fully healthy? How are they going to start the season? All these questions. Then you look at the bottom of the division. What the fuck is going on with Deshaun Watson? Nobody knows. Nobody knows. Nobody knows how that ends. I hope for the Texans' sake, Houston, home team, I hope that they hold on to him so they maximize the value. Don't just give him away, right? But they're basically trotting out a team that would probably be really good at holding a lead because they've got, run. They're trying to shorten the game. The problem is they're not going to get any leads to be able to hold that lead. I feel like the Texans' one and only chance to win a game is the opener hosting Jacksonville, and that's only because it's a rookie quarterback. first game in the league, and it's a home game. But Houston's going to have a tough year. I like a lot of the pieces that they have around the ball. I like a lot of the things that Caserio is doing. But Dave Culley, is he just kind of like a Jim Tom Sula placeholder for a year? Kind of like what you saw in between Harbaugh and I guess Kelly. Even Kelly was a placeholder in San Francisco. But the point I'm making here is Houston's in a transitional year. Maybe next year things will look good. They've got some people that have probably been on your fantasy team in the past. Tyrod Taylor, Phillip Lindsay, Mark Ingram, even though he might not make the cut, David Johnson, Rex Burkhead. It's going to be tough in Houston. It's going to be pretty bleak. So how do I see this? How do I see all this unfolding? Well, I've got the Colts starting out the season really slow because, look, you're going to have they've got an onslaught. It's a ridiculous schedule. They play Seattle. They play some of the best teams in the league early on in the year when they're going to have either a banged-up Wentz playing or they're going to have Eason or Ellen. It's going to be tough in the beginning, the first quarter of the season for the Colts. That being said, things really get easy towards the end of the year. I've got the Colts winning this division, and I've got them actually going over their win total of 9. So the over-under is 9. I can see, maybe a year from hell. Let's say Wentz is the same quarterback we saw at the end of his time in Philly, or he never gets healthy and it's just a mess. I could see that possibly happening. I don't think that's going to happen. I think there's so much talent around this team. As long as Wentz doesn't screw it up, which, again, he can screw it up. As long as he didn't screw it up, they're going to go over that 9 wins total. Tennessee, I've got them going over 9 wins. 9 wins is their over-under amount. I've got them going over, but I've actually got them just missing the playoffs on the outside looking in. Look, the defense really isn't that great. You've got how many miles on Derrick Henry at this point? Is he going to be able to continue to produce at the level that he has? He's going to wear down. And Tannehill, when is the clock going to strike midnight? When does the pumpkin and all that carriage shit disappear? Do you like Tannehill? I think he's stable. He's fine. I don't know that he's enough to go in and get me back to the playoffs and win this division. And, I just don't really see it. Could Tennessee win this division? Yes, but I think it's going to be more of the same Tennessee that you've seen from the past. Even if they win the division, maybe they win a playoff game, but that's it. I've got them just on the outside looking in, although I do have them going over 9 wins. Now it gets kind of ugly here. The over-under for Houston is 4, which is extremely low. If you take the over, then that means that you think they'll go 5-12 or better. If you take the under, you're guessing 3-14 or worse. It pains me to say that I've given them the under. It's tough. I don't see them winning a lot of games. I really don't. But that's okay. They've actually got the lowest over-under in the league at 4. The closest to them is Detroit at 4.5. But hey, give us the first round pick next year. We'll see what we have. We'll see what kind of players we picked up this year who can start to round into shape. But I've got the under, folks. Less than 4 wins for Houston for sure. And then one of my other locks of the AFC is Jacksonville under 6.5 wins. Now, I like Lawrence. Look, everything you hear is that he's transcendent. He's going to be a generational player, and, he throws a really nice ball. I saw a couple plays in the preseason. It's preseason. But I saw some footwork that, okay, he's got his presence. He looks like he knows what he's doing. But, man, Etienne out for the year with an injury. Urban Meyer, first year coaching in the NFL. Might be an all-timer in college, but what's it going to look like in the pros? The talent is just really not there. Now, look, I think with Lawrence, maybe they figured out down the line. This year, I don't see it. I don't see them going 7-10. Are you kidding me? You think they'll go 7-10 if you give them the over? I've got them at an under, and that's a lock. I think 6.5 is a really high over-under for a Jacksonville team who won 1 game last year. They didn't add enough. Now, look, they added Lawrence, and that's a lot. But the players around him, they didn't do enough to really think that I'm going to get over 6.5 wins. AFC West. So this is actually a really fun division. It has been for a while now. It's either, the Broncos from 5-6 years ago making it to the AFC title game every year. Now it's the Chiefs with their turn making the AFC title game every year. And I think it's going to be more of the same. I mean, look, the Chiefs had a really bad O-line in the Super Bowl, and that showed. Mahomes ran, I think it was 400 yards that game. Obviously not 400 yards rushing, but ran around for 400 net yards just from all the scrambling and back and forth in the pocket, and there was no pocket. I think the Chiefs, they fixed their O-line. They bring in a lot of talent. They bring in Tooney. They move the left tackle over to the right side. They bring in Orlando Brown from Baltimore for basically a bag of potato chips. I think that they've really fixed up their line quite a bit. Schwartz, I know he's a little bit banged up, but, coming back from that little step away from Kyle Long, they've got all these different pieces and whatnot. I think their O-line is going to be a lot better. I think they're going to they'll finish with the best record in the league. I think that's kind of a gimme. 14 wins, I think, is feasible for them because 14 is 14-3. So, spoiler alert, they're over-under, even though it's 12.5, which is high. I'm giving them the over. I think it's very conceivable that they win 13 or 14 games, get the 1 seed, and, have the best record in the league. I think it's very likely that happens. Now, if you look over to the rest of the division, we've got the Chargers, who with, Justin Herbert, rookie last year, comes onto the scene, blows it up, record for touchdowns in the season. I mean, what rookies are throwing 30 touchdowns? What? That doesn't happen. Herbert's coming back with another year of experience. You've got Keenan Allen. You've got a nice receiving core, Austin Eckler, coming back. Again, he's always hurt, but their over-under is 9.5. Now, I could see this going either way, but I actually like them as my 7th playoff team, the Chargers. Give me the Chargers. I like the new coach, Staley, coming in. He's going to hopefully do a better job than Lynn did. I mean, these Chargers were in every single game until the last possession and found a way to give games away. They went on a nice little win streak in the end of the year. They get their little 4-game winning streak. I think going into this year, there's a chance, you never know. Maybe Herbert has that sophomore slump, but I really liked what I saw. I think the team around him got better. I think the coaching is going to be better this year. There's just a lot of ways not to screw up the games that they found ways to screw up. But I like them as a 7 seed. I've got them just over 9.5 wins. But I do like them making the playoffs. Between the Raiders and the Broncos, I mean, it's kind of a coin flip here. Vegas over-under is at 7. You've got the Broncos over-under at 8.5. So between the two of them, it's 16 wins, 16.5. And I think that that's right, although I have it kind of the other way around. Look, I don't love what the Raiders have done, but they still find a way to chip away and kind of win these stupid games they shouldn't win. I think Carr is very underrated. I don't know that you can win a Super Bowl with Derek Carr, but I think that he does enough that, I mean, look, if you look at his stats the last few years, 100 passer rating, touchdown to interception ratio is pretty ridiculous. He's better than he gets credit for, but I don't think the Raiders are a playoff team. I think that Gruden's team management, look, you could say Mayock's the GM. We know that Gruden's pretty much making personnel decisions. Maybe they're doing them together, but I don't know. The Raiders always kind of, we're expecting to make the playoffs this year. I don't see it. I do have them going over 7 wins, but just barely. I think they'll win a couple stupid games in the division. They're also going to lose a couple games, stupid games in the division. And then Denver, 8.5 over-under. I've got them under. And I think just like every year, they're going to start hot. I think they could be, in the beginning of the year, you might look and they might be first place in the division, and then it just kind of gets away from them. Bridgewater is stable. He's not going to make a ton of mistakes, but he's also not going to win you a ton of games. look, the Broncos have a ton of talent. They've got really good receivers. They've got a nice defense. They're in Denver. There's just, there is an actual home field advantage because of the Mile High thing. But I think it's asking a lot to think they're going to go 9-8 or better. So I've got them going under 8.5 wins. Now, could them and Vegas flip-flop? Possibly. I could see the Raiders maybe going 7-10 and Denver going 9-8, and then you'd have the opposite over-under going on, right? But I think this is the way it goes until they figure out that quarterback situation. Now, next year, if we're looking at Rodgers in Denver, then I think, okay, maybe you've got a Super Bowl contender. They've got all the pieces around the quarterback, but they just don't have that quarterback position down right. So I've got another 3 overs and 1 under. And by the way, if anybody's out there, well, this seems a little bit lopsided, Mike. That more overs than unders, that can't happen. Surprisingly, can happen. I thought the same, but when I went through and did all of my picks, I looked at it. Hey, this is the way that the cards fell. So now that we've kind of done our over-unders for each of the divisions, let's take a look at the playoff picture. So just to recap, AFC East, I've got 3 overs, Buffalo, Miami, New England. Got 1 under with the Jets. AFC North, 3 overs, Baltimore, Cleveland, Pittsburgh. The 1 under being Cincinnati. AFC South, I've got the Colts and the Titans going over. I've got the Texans and the Jaguars going under. The Jags being one of my locks for going under. Kansas City, Chargers, and Vegas all going over their win total in the West, with Denver going under. My 2 locks, Jacksonville under 6.5 wins. New England over 9.5 wins. So, again, looking at the playoff picture, this is where things get fun. The way I see the AFC unfolding, according to the way I see the standings falling out, we've got the Chiefs as our 1 seed. They get a bye. We've got the Ravens as our 2 seed. I think the Ravens get the 2 over Buffalo. And I think that, they're going to win some of those head-to-head games that they've lost in the past. Somebody's got to do it, right? Let's just take a step back. AFC. People like the Chiefs. What's not to like? The only thing what's not to like in my mind is 3 years in a row. You think they'll go to the Super Bowl 3 years in a row? Look, Buffalo did 4 in a row. I get it. The Pats did 3 in a row, and they recently, where they win 1, lose 1, win 1. So it happens, but I don't know that it's going to happen. I just don't see it happening again. I think that somebody's going to figure it out. New team is ready, right? New team's ready to take the leap. Buffalo. I got to see it again from Josh Allen. That might not be a popular opinion, but I've got to see it again. The guy that I saw lose to the Texans 2 years ago, that's not that far off. We're really not that far off, which that pains me to say that we're only, a little over a year removed from the Texans with a 24-0 lead over the Chiefs. But anyway, I digress. I got to see it again. There's logic all around the Bills being the team to beat, maybe being maybe they'll make it to the Super Bowl this year. But I got to see it from Josh Allen again. Cleveland, I really like that team. I feel that they're 1 year away, right? They took their step last year by getting a playoff win. I think this year they get another playoff win. Maybe they get a little bit deeper, but not this year. I think maybe 1 more year. Now the question then becomes what happens with Mayfield after this year. But I think that 1 year away, then maybe they're in the Super Bowl or in that Final Four conversation. But I think there's still a little bit of a growth that they need to reach, right? The Colts, maybe the same as the Browns. I think that with Wentz coming in, you're not going to win in year 1. Especially, we're also assuming that we get the retro Wentz and not end of his reign in Philly Wentz. So I don't see that happening. I think they're still another year away. So that leaves Baltimore. So I think Baltimore finds a way to get it done, right? Odd man out. If not the other teams I mentioned, why not Baltimore? So I've got them as the 2 seed, playing the Chargers as the 7. I got them beating the Chargers and advancing to the second round. My 4-5 matchup, I've got my Colts hosting my Dolphins. So, Colts, Dolphins, first playoff appearance for Tua. Colts, I think, are a better team than people give them credit for. Again, they were right there at the end with Buffalo and have, I would argue, upgraded at quarterback. So, all that talent, I've got the Colts beating the Dolphins, advancing to the second round. And then I've got a nice 3-6 Bills hosting Browns. There's got to be one upset, right? And I like the Browns. I think I need to see more from Allen. I want to see it another year. I've got the Browns making an upset here. I've got the Browns beating the Bills, advancing to the second round, where we're going to see a couple of rematches. We've got the 1-seed Chiefs hosting the Browns. Hey, it was cute last year. I don't know if they're going to get it done. I think maybe that the Browns are right there at the end, but the Chiefs find a way to win. I think the Browns take a lot out of the Chiefs from this game, which kind of sets them up for the AFC title game, where the Ravens, who will beat the Colts in the second round, will visit Kansas City. So now you've got Mahomes versus Jackson. Mahomes has owned that rivalry. They play again this year, which I think the Chiefs will win in the early regular season matchup. Somehow, some way, though, that toll that the Browns took on the Chiefs continues. The Ravens, they're in there. Lamar's kind of hot. The bracket fell into their favor. They get the Chargers. They get the Colts. I think two very beatable teams with new quarterbacks. Well, second-year quarterback and a kind of a reclamation project. And then all of a sudden, of course, the Chiefs are kind of the juggernaut. But at this point, they're getting their confidence up. They finished the year on a nice little win streak. They're feeling themselves. They find a way to get a lead, and they keep that lead over the Chiefs. I've got the Ravens. The 2-seed Ravens represent the AFC, making it all the way to the big game. So who do they play? That's coming up in the next episode. That will drop Thursday for you all listening. But we'll do the same thing for the NFC. We're going to go division by division, give you our over-unders, give you the picks, and then I'm going to, of course, give you my Super Bowl pick for this year. So thanks for listening. Make sure to subscribe. Like I said, a lot more unsportsmanlike conduct coming your way this football season, going into the basketball season as well. Again, a lot of NFL and NBA. We might cover some sports outside of that when it's newsworthy enough or justified, but it's going to be a primarily NFL, NBA podcast. Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube. Rate, review, listen. Let us know what you think. Subscribe to all the Repertoire podcasts. Don't at me. Play it by ear. And with that, we will see you all Thursday. Tune in and talk to you then.
Yeah, that was a good one.